Welcome to a brand new episode of the Bold Take Podcast. I'm Austin Hill. With me, as always, is Austin Wader. And we're back talking college football action. And look, it lived up to the hype. The 12-team college football playoff has not disappointed yet. The rankings are officially in. We've officially got action in just a couple weeks. We'll get to see the beginning of the 12-team playoff, but we'll get to that a little bit more in just a moment. But we're back talking college football. We had a great weekend of conference championship games that set up for an excellent 12-team playoff. But look, for some teams, the season has ended. Some teams, the season is over. And some teams, look, they got a bowl game, but half of their team is starting, or not half, but a lot of their team has entered the transfer portal.
I
Uh,
have no idea who you could be referring to right now. I got no idea.
you know, it just feels like they're getting ready for next year, maybe trying to, move things along. But a man who can speak on that situation right now, our known Arkansas Razorback die hard Austin Wader. He's got some parting thoughts from the 2024 college football season for the Arkansas Razorbacks as we look forward to a new year.
Yeah, Die Hard for football is now in question. I have looked at options. I don't know if you saw, I did kind of ask if Notre Dame was taking fans. I already got one from Rocker that Oregon, he would allow me to come on as an Oregon fan. He has allowed it. So, I'm keeping my options open right now, if I'm being honest. But just an honest opinion on it. Just a waste. I think is the right word to use it. Um, Waste of a season. So many missed opportunities. People will say that they over exceeded getting to 6-6. But the problem is, if we're over exceeding getting to 6-6, that's not good. 6-6 should not be over exceeding expectations. That's maybe something coming off a death penalty era or a 2-10, 1-11 win season, kind of exceeding expectations. But with this, that's just disappointing. The Oklahoma State, there's so many close games Arkansas could have won this year. I could go through all of them, but it would literally hurt my heart even more than it already does. So I'm not going to. But nonetheless, the way the season ended disappointing against Missouri, Hunter, I was going to say the wise Hunter sarcastically, but I'll just say Hunter to
Yeah.
say time, had a choice about what to do with the future of this Razorback football program. And he ultimately decided to keep Sam Pittman around for another year. Now, it's an interesting choice. Um, to me, I'll just be dead honest with you. Sam should have been fired last year. I've said that a million times on here. I would have fired him after last year, but he hired Bobby Petrino, so it saved his butt that offseason. This year, I don't know what got kept him around. I don't know
That,
what could have possibly kept him around this time. Another disappointing year. He's had a hip injury where he had to have hip surgery. I hope everything went okay with that with him there, but it just disappointing as a whole, and he chose to keep him. And Arkansas fans and me responded rationally to it. You know, no one was saying they were going to boycott Razorbacks football games next year.
yeah.
No people said that they were going to leak Hunter Yurchek's phone number onto Twitter for all Razorback fans to find. That was interesting to say the least. But after it happened, I was angry and disappointed. But it was like, you know whatever at this point, 6-6. So then the last couple of weeks have happened, the last week or two have happened, where now Arkansas leads the Power Four schools with most players in the transfer portal. I think it's at 25, 26 right now.
Yeah, I saw 25 last time I saw it.
And that includes Braylon Russell, who went in, withdrew, and then withdrew like a few hours later after his whole fiasco. I don't want to touch that. But nonetheless, here's my question to Hunter. If the fan base is unhappy, players are all entering, 25 players entering the transfer portal. Several players are leaving for the NFL. Some, even though they're probably not getting that high of a draft pick, they're still going. What is the point of keeping him around? There's a fresh start that's set there with 25 players going and leaving, a fresh ground for a new coach to come in and do it. And I talked with some Razorback fans. I won't call them out because I think some of their takes might not be the brightest in the world. But they told me, sure, they're like, yeah, well, these players are leaving because they want money. They want that NIL money. That's why they're leaving the program. So, I said whatever to that. And then Sam Pittman had a press conference today, his first since the season ended, and basically address these rumors with this quote: "We have money. Our donors have been very good financially to us. Revenue sharing coming up here in July. We have money. We're not losing these kids because we don't have money." He said that word for word today. We're not losing these kids because of money. Why are we losing them? Why are we losing them then if it's not money? I'll tell you what the frick it is. It's a terrible situation for a football program. They don't want to stick at a program that's mediocre at the Power 4 level. They want to go to a better Power 4 school like Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin, who are constantly getting 9, 10 wins a year. A&M, 8 wins every single year. They're not set a low bar, or even a lower tier school that's getting 9 to 10 wins a year, being a successful program than being middle of the pack, just wondering, gosh darn, what could have happened during some games. I just don't get it. I don't get how Hunter could look at this situation and see that this is good for Arkansas football for next year. Taylon Green's coming back. Cool. Braylon Russell. Cool. But we're losing half our starting O line, our entire receiving core, several defensive players. A lot of the production is gone from a 6-6 team. And we're talking about thinking we're going to be better next year with playing Memphis and Notre Dame in non-conference along with the SEC schedule. Absolutely not. And look, some people are trying to be like, well, Hunter's still doing a great job. He hired John Calipari, this and that, made those moves. No, 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 no. He didn't hire John Calipari. John Tyson got John Calipari to Arkansas. Let's get that fact straight there. If John Tyson was not a big part of Arkansas, just the state of Arkansas as a whole, John Calipari is not here. I don't care what anyone says. He and him are best buds. Hunter was just part of closing the deal with John Tyson. So I don't get it. I've said a million times, dang, Arkansas media is talking about they feel that this is the most disconnected the fan base has felt from the university in a long time, and just all sports in general. And I just don't get why you don't go for a hard reset. No fans are happy about Sam coming back. No fans are happy about all the players leaving. No fans are happy about Hunter satisfying himself with this mediocrity. And here's my question to you, Austin. And this is an interesting one because he's a coach at one of your schools now. If we're okay with this 6-6, 7-5 mediocrity, why the heck did we fire Brett Bielema?
Yeah,
Why
well,
did we fire him if
he was
we were okay with this mediocrity?
Brett Bielema was going to finish the season ranked at Illinois. He's too good. He was six and
Yeah,
six, too low. Eight
yeah. I
wins.
mean, exactly. He's winning. He's getting
Yeah,
60. But Arkansas, he was getting 6-6, 7-5 every single year, and we
yeah,
fired him to try to improve from that. And now all of a sudden we're okay with Sam Pittman going 6-6. Like, oh, it's okay. You get another year, buddy. Now I just don't get what the point of making the change was if we weren't gonna try to move on to the compete at the next level. Because Hunter's the one who fired Brett Bielema. He hired Chad Morris. That failed. He hired Sam Pittman, hasn't kept him around. Look, I could ramble on another 20 minutes about different things, but I mean, just the shape of Arkansas football as a whole, it is probably the most disconnected I have been with football with them probably in my entire life. And that includes the Chad Morris years. That includes it. Mainly with Chad Morris, he was recruiting well. He was getting top 20 recruiting classes. He just couldn't coach. Sam had one good year of production with Chad Morris's talent. Meanwhile, he's doing terrible in recruiting, can't keep in-state talent around. I mean, it's the roughest spot I've seen it in my time as a Razorback fan. And I've been a Razorback fan for how many years have I been alive on this earth? 23 years, almost 24 coming up in April. So uh, it's just I'm just getting really tired of it, and the disconnect. I think a lot of Razorback fans can agree with this. They might not agree with everything I'm saying, but they got to agree there's some kind of disconnect going on with the football program and the fan base. And you can count on me most likely not watching that bowl game.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Look, I've been saying this for a couple of years, and I think this year it's been extremely prominent to me. I haven't just been worried about the head coaching job at the University of Arkansas. I've started to wonder if Hunter Yurchek's the right guy for the AD job. Like you said, the biggest move he's made in his entire career at the University of Arkansas it was made by John Tyson to get John Calipari. That's the biggest thing that's happened for Hunter Yurchek. And he didn't make that move. Um, but, it's not just about the hiring the coaches. Uh, it's his job to get support from the donors. There's no excuse why the University of Arkansas can't put up Notre Dame or Ohio State or Michigan or anybody else's NIL money. They have Walmart. They have Tyson. That should be top 10 recruiting class every year. But Hunter Yurchak is so bad at his job. He's created a product that nobody wants to touch. And not to mention, he's got Jerry Jones as well, that should be fully at his disposal. But he's just made the university so untouchable that nobody wants to put that kind of money into the University of Arkansas because they don't trust the people making the decisions. And I think that's a
And
lot.
the main thing to me, I want to add something else in with Hunter. You talked about the money, the Arkansas Edge thing that they've done, the NIL program, was a great thing to get created, but he is asking for so much from fans of the program, not top donors from big businesses. He's asking the fans. And if you don't donate to Arkansas Edge, it's your fault that the program is bad. It's your fault. And also, just another example I saw the other day, Austin, that Liberty Bowl game, Arkansas versus Texas Tech, student tickets to go to the game for Arkansas, $100. Student tickets for Texas Tech, $25 to go to that game. There's your root right there with your point you were mentioning.
Yeah, I mean, it's just bad brand. He's created a bad brand, an untouchable brand, and not just that, but not only is he directly hurting the university, he's hurting. He's benefiting another program and Walmart, Jerry Jones, Tyson. They're giving money to Eli Drinkowitz in Missouri because that dude's from Alma, Arkansas, and he has a connection to those guys. It's crazy to think that in Fayetteville, there's a university where Walmart is, where Tyson is. Jerry Jones went to the U of A, and they will not give any money to the university, or they won't give what they should, what other programs can get from their donors. I think it starts at the top. I don't think it's just a coaching issue. I think at some point Hunter Yurchek has to be held responsible for his inability and his ineptitude at his job.
And I think also, keep in mind, he was rumored for that South Carolina job for the last couple of weeks before they finally made their hire. They were wanting him bad. And also another thing with Hunter, even though he ended up getting John Calipari, people forget how crappy that exit was with Eric Musselman last year.
Yeah,
People forget how awkward that was with him posting the video on the bus saying, "Wait a minute, you're still here?" Without Eric's permission, without telling him he was going to do it. Not to mention all the other awkwardness with that. You got John Calipari supposedly, but I already made my point with that. But yeah, like I said, there just needs to be, I think, a hard reset at the University of Arkansas. That's what I think. Just a full on reset there at the top.
yeah, couldn't agree with you more. I think there's a lot of issues going on there right now. Um, but let's get into college football. Let's talk about these conference championship games, um, and about what we saw last week. Um, Man, this was an exciting week of action. We knew that we were going to have some great games. And look, hate to be that guy, but I started hot with my bets of the week. Now I kind of trailed off near the end of the week, but first two games were electric, and that's sort of a Jacksonville State 52-12 victory over Western Kentucky. Uh, Man, Jacksonville State dominated this game from the word go. They did not hesitate, and they made a big statement. Another nine, or getting themselves to a 9-win season this year. Really incredible.
Truly is. Again, they're second or third year in FBS level. Yeah, so absolutely incredible for them. It hurts though. Obviously, Rich Rodriguez on his way back to West Virginia. After this, of course, that was announced. That's a whole another interesting hire to say the least.
Yeah,
Make Pat White the offensive coordinator, and we'll be happy there, West Virginia, Rich Rod.
absolutely.
Um, but yeah, Jacksonville State. I mean, they've built a really solid program at the FBS level in Conference USA, and they do it by mainly running the football, which is what we've seen with Rich Rodriguez and his offenses. And yeah, I mean, they flat out dominated this game from the get-go, to say the least, against Western Kentucky, who is known as one of the perennial powers in Conference USA.
Yeah, and then on top of that, we go over to the American Army, another dominating victory over Tulane. Not quite the same margin, but still a big win. And Army really, I'll say this much: they did their part in this game. They knew that they were going to need to do something big to have any chance of the college football playoff. And I know that they didn't get in, but this was the performance they needed. Had Boise State lost, things could have gotten very, very interesting.
Yeah, they could have, and I mean, they looked really good. I mean, they flat out dominated the line of scrimmage most of the night. I mean, just dominated the clock against a pretty solid Tulane team. I mean, this was a great team with some great players. Of course, Darian Mensah, their quarterback, has already announced he's in the transfer portal. That true freshman on his way to Duke. Keep an eye on him, folks. He will be a special player in a couple of years if he does stay around with Duke and stay at that Power Four level. But yeah, how about that Army first year in the American, an 11-1 record, that one loss coming to a playoff team in Notre Dame. Yeah, absolutely incredible for them. Absolutely.
Yeah, then we had UNLV versus Boise State in the Mountain West Championship. Look, this had playoff game written all over it. Like I was saying, this was probably the first of three playoff games we were going to see this weekend. And it lived up to that. Boise State, even though it was a 21-7 victory, this team dominated this game. Look, Genty had a big night on the numbers, but what I liked about what Boise State did is the defense stepped up and they were electric. They held UNLV to 7 points, and Boise State asked Maddox Madsen to make a lot of throws in this game. And look, the numbers aren't huge, 159 or 158 passing yards, but 18 completions on 24 attempts and a touchdown. Look, they're trying to show there's a little bit more to it. And look, the defense was built towards getting Ashton Genty. Couldn't really stop him, but they still made big plays. Really, really big game for Boise State. I think that showed a little bit more completeness as we head into the college football playoff.
I mean, you talked about it. This was a defensive game. Credit that Boise State defense. 7 sacks in this game for them. They were absolutely dominant pass rushing. Hajj Malik Williams, said before the game he couldn't find Boise on the map. And, they proceeded to pinpoint the exact location of each of his sacks in Boise, Idaho on the scoreboard. That was a very nice touch. I like the creativity. But yeah, I mean, they just got up 21-0 early in this game, and their just defense just flat out dominated. And that was something that I had to come into question about with this Boise State team. That was my reasoning for picking UNLV in this game. We knew Ashton Genty be good, had over 200 yards. We knew what he could do. But what this defense did, and he talked about what Madsen did, making the big plays, throwing the ball when they needed him to, those are the kind of things they're going to have to do consistently if they want to win some games in the college football playoff. And then for UNLV, look, a phenomenal year at 10-3, still an incredible year for them. Of course, Barry Odom on his way to Purdue. I wish him well there. That is one of the tougher Power Four jobs in the country to go to Purdue. But I don't know. Have you heard the official new hire for UNLV?
Oh, I saw it, but now it's coming to me. Dan Mullen.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Dan Mullen. That is a phenomenal hire. That is a phenomenal hire. He is, to my opinion, he should still be at Florida. If you want my honest
I,
opinion,
I agree
he
with you.
got kicked out the wrong way there. In my opinion, a man who took Mississippi State to #1 in the country. Might I remind you? Um, so yeah, UNLV ain't going nowhere. They will still be a problem under Dan Mullen.
No, yeah, that was huge. And it gets Dan Mullen off my TV screen at halftime. No offense to you, Dan. I think you're a great coach. You were not cut out to be the halftime show guy. So I'm glad that you will be back on the field and not talking anymore. Uh, but yeah, let's get into Saturday's action now, where we really had an action-packed slate. And that started with really, to me, the first big surprise of the weekend. And that was in Ohio winning 38-3 over Miami of Ohio, and maybe a new era here in the MAC. Kind of as we talked about in our preview of Conference Championship Week, Miami of Ohio and Toledo have really been the two teams at the top of the MAC. They've been the two teams, I think, the last 5 or 6 years that have won the MAC. It's really just been their conference, and they've been the two teams playing each other the last 6 years. So Ohio was a new look here in the MAC championship game, and they capitalized and maybe ushering in a new era for the Bobcats.
And, I spent the whole preseason when I picked Miami, Ohio to win this conference and talking about the game, just trusting in Miami, Ohio's defense. Was unfamiliar with that Ohio defense's game. Shut
Yeah,
down the Miami, Ohio offense completely. I think they had 189 yards of total offense in this game. They shut them down. No run game was existent. Their passing game, Parker Navarro was incredible for them. They just dominated. They kicked the crap out of Miami, Ohio. And you wonder what the future holds. They're on obviously their coach Tim Albin on his way to Charlotte to be the new coach of the Charlotte 49ers there. So you wonder what this means as a whole for the future. But listen, Ohio, they dominated this game. They rightfully deserve that conference championship. Now we'll see what they can do on a consistent level in the next couple of years to compete with the likes of Miami, Ohio, and Toledo.
yeah, really incredible stuff. Then we had Arizona State punching their ticket to the college football playoff, 45-19 victory over Iowa State. And man, I was impressed. Not just with obviously Cam Scatabo, fantastic athlete, but Sam Levitt stepped up in this game. No Jordan Tyson, and still threw for 219 and 3 touchdowns. Really impressive stuff from this Arizona State offense that allowed them to win, go to the college football playoff, and boy, oh boy, make things exciting here. Getting themselves a bye, too, not to mention.
They can thank a certain team for making sure they
Yeah,
got that bye. But yeah, they were just incredible in this game. For those of you who, if this is your first time watching, um, we love Ashton Genty here. Ashton Genty's number one on the field, but number one in my heart is Cam Scatterbo. Number one in my heart is Cam Scatterbo. I love watching this guy run the football. He is so much fun to watch. He's incredible, hitting the Heisman post, signing autographs, you name it. He was incredible. But you mentioned it. The play by Sam Levitt, the freshman quarterback. People keep on forgetting this guy's a freshman. What he's doing at Arizona State right now was absolutely incredible, passing the ball when they needed him to. But then this Arizona State defense, keep in mind, Iowa State went right down the field on their first drive of the game, really did nothing after that. This was all Arizona State from that point on. And look, Coach Dillingham, I love that hire since they made it. I've loved it even more, obviously, this year. But no one predicted 11-2 Big 12 champs this year for Arizona State. Were picked dead last in the conference for reasons. People thought they were still rebuilding after last year. But we talked about at the beginning of the year, this conference had potential to have some chaos happen. It's happened the last couple of years in the Big 12. And it happened here with this Arizona State team now getting into the playoff. I can't wait to see what they do. Iowa State, look, Matt Campbell's still around, still, in my opinion, one of the more underrated coaches. What he has done on a consistent level at Iowa State, a program that 10 years ago was a joke. Now they're a consistent 8-9 win team. Look, Rocco Beck is still expected to be around to a quarterback. They're going to have good defense and run the ball. They're going to continue to be a problem in the Big 12, but this day belonged to Arizona State.
absolutely. A big win for Arizona State, punching that ticket, like I said. SEC championship. Um, this went to OT. Georgia gets the job done against Texas, 22-19. Look, Georgia played a really sound game, and Gunnar Stockton coming in after the injury at halftime. to Carson Beck. And look, he didn't do a lot, but he was able to control the game. But Texas's defense charged back, gave him a chance. I was thinking to myself when Gunnar Stockton threw that interception, does Kirby Smart know that he is winning this game? There was no reason to throw the ball there. I would have fired my OC that night. I'll be honest. Run the ball, get a field goal, go up six. Make Texas score a touchdown, which I don't think they would have been able to do. Now, look, you got the win in OT, but I think that they would have won this game in regulation had they run the clock down and kicked a field goal and put this game to six. I was dumbfounded that they dropped back and tried to throw a deep pass with a freshman quarterback in the fourth quarter of the SEC championship. Um, just crazy stuff to me.
It truly was. Let me give you my perspective of this. I was in Branson, Missouri at Silver Dollar City watching this game on my phone, waiting in line to go on the train to look at the Christmas lights.
Yeah,
And I'm watching this and I see exactly what you're talking about. It's late. Georgia's running the ball. They're going to kick the field goal. And then as soon as he threw the ball, I let out probably the biggest, "What are you doing?" And I think I had 20 people look at me. And one guy's like, "You're watching Georgia, Texas, aren't you?" He's like, "Yeah." I was like, "What was that? What were they doing?" I
yeah,
didn't I didn't get it either. They are lucky because it looked like Texas was going to go down, score that touchdown, and somehow win that game. The defense made the stop in the red zone to force overtime. And then thankfully, they hold Texas to a field goal for them, and then they go and score the touchdown to win the game. But yeah, it was a questionable decision. And look, there was some talk from people saying that this felt like a national championship game to some people. To me, I didn't see it that way. To me, it looked more sloppy than two of the better teams in the country. It looked kind of sloppy for both sides. And, something that people kept on bringing up, where is Texas's marquee win this year
yeah.
against a ranked opponent?
They
I
don't.
don't see it. I don't see it anywhere. I think the big one was Texas A&M. That was and Michigan. Michigan 7-5 team. A&M unranked 8-4. The few time you played a good team, Georgia twice, you lost both times. So I think that's going to create some doubt for Texas entering the playoff uh, when they play some of these better teams down the line. And then for Georgia, look, we've said it a million times, you don't want to doubt Georgia, but there is reason for doubt. There is reason for doubt. You wonder about Carson Beck's health with the injury. If they believe it is a UCL injury in his elbow. So
Yeah.
we'll see what happens. But if Gunnar Stockton has to come in and play, you're limited offensively even more. And so yeah, there are some question marks for both these teams to me entering the playoff.
Yeah, my thought was Georgia did a good job the way they used Gunnar Stockton. They didn't put him almost the entire game, didn't put him in a situation where he faced any kind of pressure throwing the ball. The only time he did, he threw the interception, which is where I would be worried. The one time he sees pressure, he throws the ball to nobody but a Texas defender. I'd be worried about that. But for Texas, I'd be worried about Quinn Ewers' pocket presence has been awful the last few weeks of the season. Look, I know he's not the most athletic guy. You're not expecting to be Lamar Jackson, but he is just taking the stupidest sacks of all time. He's acting like he's got 20 minutes when he's really got, 5 seconds. I just think, look, I think the offensive line obviously could be better, but there are some times where you got to get rid of the ball. And Quinn Ewers just has not done a great job of that.
And I think also another thing is his ability to throw it accurately down the field is another thing that comes into question with me. And I don't know if that's still him dealing with some of the injuries he had earlier in the season, but there's been some limitations the last couple of weeks with him offensively. Now, don't get me wrong, Texas has enough elite athletes to do some quick screen games or get the ball out of his hand quickly that they can have success. But when you're playing a team like Georgia, or Oregon, teams with great defenses where you have to stand in the pocket and make those deep throws. I don't know if he can do that. And that is my issue with Texas. If they want to compete and win a national title in the playoff this year, that is my main issue with them.
Yeah, my final note about the SEC championship. Can we petition to make this game a true neutral site game when Georgia plays? Look, I'm
Yeah.
not had any effect on the game. I really don't think it is. Texas couldn't have done much better than they did at any site. It's just frustrating to me. Look, I've made the drive from Atlanta to Athens before in reverse. It's not a difficult drive to make. Driving through Atlanta is the toughest part of America. Um, but it is, not that big of an issue to make that drive if you're a dedicated fan of Georgia football. You're making that drive. If you're not already located in Atlanta to begin with, I just hate that, all these teams play these neutral site games for conference championships, and then for Georgia, it's basically playing in Sanford. Uh, um, how hard would it be for the SEC to play in like New Orleans when Georgia's in the SEC championship? I don't think it would be. Uh, I just think if you're going to give somebody home field advantage, should it not be the team that has the better record in conference play? Um, it's not a big deal. It's just something that personally peeves me. Um, it's not anything that had to do with the game. It's just something I despise because it's a neutral site game and Georgia's playing a home game when they're in the SEC championship.
That's fair. That's a fair argument. That I mean, don't get me wrong. Everyone agrees with you. That's a fair argument for it. It's just I think, they've always played it in Atlanta. I think they've just stuck with that because before Georgia was a prominent, they were playing it in the Georgia Dome whenever it was always Florida and Alabama, and that kind of felt sort of more neutral. And yeah, I don't know what they could do with it, but I see your argument for it.
Yeah, I was just thinking, how hard would it be to play the game in New Orleans, every some odd years? Uh, or you just kind of try and change it around a little bit. Play in, well, I can't say that. I was going to say play in Jerry's World. That's where the Big 12 is right now. But for how much longer? Potential move for the SEC to Jerry's World and Jerry to kick out the Big 12 now that the two big Texas schools are in the SEC. Who knows? Doesn't matter. Just me and my absurdities. Um, Sun Belt Championship. The Marshall Thundering Herd make me proud. 31-3, and then the entire team hits the transfer portal. What a story coming out of Virginia with this one.
Yeah, I mean, look, I made it. I said what I wanted to say about that whole situation last week. I was rooting for Coach Huff to go in and dominate this game. So that, and then get a better job. Now, unfortunately, he didn't get a better job. He's now at Southern Miss, the team that was the worst in the conference. But, this tells you more about that program. Those players were playing for him. They were playing for him, and now they're all leaving because he is gone. And
Yep.
that new coach walking into that situation, whoever it is, I don't know if they've announced a hire yet there. I don't think they have. Whoever it is walking into a tough kind of rebuilding situation that he's going to have to do on the fly because for some reason they didn't want him to stick around as their head coach. I don't know why.
Yeah, I'm just so proud of my herd. Uh, brings a tear to my eye, really.
They should make you the head coach.
They should make me the head coach. I won a national championship there. Um,
And you remember you got passed over for the head coaching job after the head coach left.
I did. That was actually sick and disgusting that that happened to me. That's why I left Marshall in my dynasty because they
Dang you, athletic department at Marshall. You're screwing up great coaches.
just messing it all up. Braylon Braxton, just a legend. And Tyshawn Chapman caught his second touchdown of the season in this game, which you absolutely love to see. Future two-time Heisman winner, if my first dynasty is any indication. Uh, but man, just a great game for Marshall coming out there winning it, like you said, playing for coach. That's what it's all about. That's how you know you've got yourself a nice built team when the coach coaches for the players and the players play for the coach.
And Southern Miss has got to really like that hire now. So I think Southern Miss is very excited.
Absolutely. Funny enough, I'm sure you know this, but for a lot of our fans, Southern Miss Marshall in the same conference as
Yeah.
well. So you could very well might see this team go from worst to first in the Sun Belt because they might take the Sun Belt championship team and just put them in a new
One
university.
can hope. One can hope.
Then we had the Big Ten Championship, Oregon, a 45-37 victory over Penn State. And man, the Ducks were going crazy right away offensively. Dylan Gabriel had himself a game. Drew Willard, the two interceptions, really killer in this game. But the run game was phenomenal for Penn State. That's the one thing you can always expect. Man, they just have got to be better passing the football.
I mean, there is obviously that, but I just want to say how impressed I was by Penn State's performance in this game. Nobody, and I mean nobody, was giving them a chance to even be competitive in
That's
this game against Oregon. I mean, we gave them a chance, but we are completely Penn State and James Franklin biased on
yeah.
this podcast.
It was it had nothing to do with the facts.
Yeah. So we were rooting for him, but everyone's saying there's no chance. What's the point of even watching this game? It's not going to be close. Penn State got behind early. They made this a very competitive game, so much so Drew Alar and them had a chance to go down the field and tie this game up. And then, yeah, just it was a poor timing to go for a one-on-one route 30 yards down the field. It was poor timing for it. And yeah, it's just unfortunate there. But Penn State's performance in this game, I think not only to me, but to a lot of the country, I think showed, hey, maybe they can get a game or two in this playoff and maybe make a little bit of a run here in the playoff. And I think that's also what helped them not drop nearly as far by showing a great competitive performance against an Oregon team that we all agree is the best team in the country.
Yeah, I think I concur with you. I think that's what kept them above Notre Dame. Was winning that game because I thought Penn State loses this game, Notre Dame's going to be over them. But they put up a great fight, like you said. I think it showed the committee that there's a little bit more to this Penn State team than meets the eye. And then finally, we had Clemson with a 34-31 victory over SMU in the ACC championship. Their only way into the college football playoff was to win this game, and they did it on a massive kick from a kicker. Let's just face it. Since J.K. Potter left, the kicking at Clemson has been abysmal. They brought in that guy who was J.K. Potter's backup a couple of years ago, who became like an accountant. And they're like, "Hey, you still got eligibility? Do you want to come kick for us again?" And he did, and he wasn't good, so he went back to doing his accounting job. It's just been up and down for them kicking. And look, this year their kicking hasn't been much better, but to come through and hit that big field goal, really, really huge for Clemson to get in. And boy, we'll talk about in a little bit some of the other ramifications that this kick had.
Yeah, I mean, look, we're going to talk more about those ramifications for this here in a second, but yeah, let's give Clemson some credit. Um, they were dominating this game, bro, 24-7 at halftime, like we all predicted. We all felt Clemson was going to come out and dominate this top 10 SMU team. And look, it was 24-7. Let's give credit to SMU. We're going to talk more about them in a second, but they wouldn't be having us talk about them if they didn't make this a game in the second half. They came back
Yeah.
out, made it competitive late, tied it up, but poor kick return coverage, one bad defensive play, and the Clemson got in that field goal range, hit the walk off, and it was huge for Clemson. Again, they should be thanking Syracuse for this opportunity and for Ann Brown for beating Miami to get them in. And somehow, despite all the questions about wondering about Clemson, they are in this 12 team playoff.
Yeah, really huge win for them. Dabo Sweeney, unfortunately, gets into the college football playoff. We'll see how long it lasts, but they're in. And they're gonna try and make some noise. But yeah, this was a huge win that they absolutely needed to make it, and it was really impressive to see the way they came out and got the job done. But that wraps up our recaps of conference championships. Let's take a look at our teams and players of the week from conference championship week, and just really what a week it was. I'll start with my teams of the week. At number 5, I had Army. Look, this was a big win, a good win for them, but a game I thought they were going to win, and it ended up being a little bit meaningless after the final game on Friday night. Boise State getting the job done. Uh, at number 4, I went with Arizona State. I think a lot of people saw them winning. I did pick Iowa State to win this game, But ultimately, they played really good football, got the job done. But nobody expected them to win the game the way they did by the big margin. And also, throwing the ball as well as they did. Um, then at number three, I went with Ohio. This was a huge, massive win in the MAC to take down a team that's really been at the top for the last few years, and put themselves on the map, and a 10-win season in Ohio, not being talked about nearly enough. Um, at number two, I went with Boise State. The Broncos needed this game. They couldn't lose this game and miss the conference championship. And look, sometimes you see a team a second time. That's enough time for that team to make their adjustments and to beat you. That didn't happen here. Boise State dominated, and they earned themselves a bye in the college football playoff. How awesome is that? I don't know, but things obviously wouldn't have shaken out this way um, in the 14 playoff era. But technically, as the 3 seed, they would have been in a 14 playoff. Again, I know that that's because they're the conference champion and they're moved up from where they were. But it's just really incredible to see them come in and be ranked number three over two Power Four champions. And then finally, I went with Clemson. Look, I don't love giving Dabo Sweeney credit, but the guy did a great job. Uh, to close out ACC play, kept it close. Syracuse gets him in, and he knows he's got one shot to make the college football playoff. And he cashes in an incredible kick to win the game. Truly good stuff from Clemson. Had to give them the number one spot.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to take this in. You will not see this man probably talk that nice about Clemson probably ever, maybe until they win another national championship. So I hope you all took that in. But nonetheless, my top five. So number five for me, I had Boise State on there. Obviously, their big win. They dominated defensively. They made the big plays, to say the least. Number four, I actually went with Marshall. Again, the players playing for their coach in his final game. They went out and kicked Louisiana Lafayette's butt. And yeah, had to show them some love there. Clemson at number three. You talked about it. In a do or die situation, you were not getting in if you lost this game. So they went out there, they dominated early, and even though SMU came back, they were able to hang on and win that game. Number two, had to go with Army. Look, anytime a team comes into a conference in the first year and just dominates and runs through the conference, you earn my respect. I mean, they absolutely kicked butt in this conference. They were incredible. They deserved the opportunity to be number two. And then number one, you already know where I was going. Arizona State humiliating Iowa State in that Big 12 championship. I loved seeing it. And yeah, had to show some love for Arizona State.
Yeah, the fans agreed with us. You look at the polls, Arizona State won them all. I won't leave you in suspense. Our conference championship team of the week was the Arizona State Sun Devils. Like I said, it was a great win, and for them to be able to win it the way that they did was pretty unexpected and pretty impressive heading into the college football playoff. Um, let's get to those players of the week. At number five, I went with Gunnar Stockton out of Georgia, and I put him in the five spot because I felt like the way he handled himself, it deserved some credit and a mention. But obviously, statistically and kind of the way he closed out his game were not the greatest thing. So I didn't want to put him into a top four spot. But just a little number five shout out to Gunnar Stockton. It was a big moment to step into. Absolutely hats off to be able to come in and maintain the second half for the most part. Then at number four, I went with Sam Levitt, Arizona State's quarterback. I wanted to give some love to this guy. Look, he, like you said, he's a freshman. Big moment, and the way that he was able to step up and make some big plays, getting some extra usage in this one, was really impressive to me. I really, just an awesome performance from Arizona State. To again another team that showed how diverse they really are as a team heading into the college football playoff. At number three, I'm with Ashton Jeanty. Another 200-yard rushing game, another touchdown. Bore, yawn. Oh, I'm so sick of talking about the greatest running back in the modern era of football or college football we've seen. It's truly impressive what Ashton Genty is able to do week in and week out. And I like the statement that he made when asked about his Heisman, why he thinks he should win the Heisman, saying it's a defense's job to game plan for me every single week, and they still can't stop me. And I think that makes, that should be the end of the case. Because it's absolutely right. Teams come in to play Boise State, and they know they have to stop him, and he still runs for 200 yards. It really is just phenomenal. At number two, I have Trey Stewart, the running back from Jacksonville State. This guy had a week, and a week full of great running back performances. This guy may have had the best one. Truly phenomenal game. Had to give some love, especially in a blowout. He was definitely at the forefront of that scoring onslaught. And then at number one, I went with Nolan Hauser. Look, both kickers for Clemson this year have had up and down years, inconsistent, inaccurate, just bad years. To come out and have a 4 for 4 game on field goals, two or three extra points, I can't exactly remember, to be perfect and to hit a 56 yarder to win the ACC championship, put your team in the conference championship, no sweating it out, no worrying, no going home and crying, saying, hey, we just earned ourselves another game. Absolutely humongous game. You know, I love putting a kicker in here. I haven't been able to do it like all year. So to put a kicker at number one, I'm going to do it, even if he plays for Clemson.
He may be number one, but he will not be number one in your heart for your kickers. We all know good and dang well who your number
Yes.
one kicker is.
Matt Mervis, never forget.
But for my top five, number five, I had Dalen Everett, defensive back for Georgia. Two big interceptions for them in the SEC championship game. Um, Listen, he was incredible defensively in that secondary, made some big plays for him there. Number four for me, Trey Stewart, Jacksonville State. You mentioned it. He dominated this game on the ground and really took control. I want to give credit to quarterback Tyler Huff for Jacksonville State, too. He was incredible just as much, just couldn't make the list. Number three, a man who's been on it multiple times as well, Bryson Daly, the quarterback from Army, was phenomenal running the ball. He has been phenomenal running the ball all year long, and he did against a very solid Tulane team. Number two is where we have Heisman Trophy winner, Ashton Genty. Yeah, Ashton Genty, number two. You know, like you said, yawn, 200 yards, only one touchdown. Wait, 200 yards. Right. Yeah. We've come to expect that from a player. Hey, Heisman voters, if we are expecting 200 yards a game from a player, I think that guy should be a Heisman Trophy
You're
winner.
the
I'm
best
just
player in
saying.
the country. If you're expecting 200 yards a game from a running back, he's the best player in the country. I just don't even know why we have to say it. It's just
Exactly.
crazy. If the coaches, if the fans, if the ADs, if I don't know, a chimpanzee voted for the Heisman, Ashton Genty would win. But because it's the media, it's a question. This should be the most boring Heisman race of all time. It flabbergasted me. Not to interrupt you, but it's mind boggling.
It should be the most boring one we had since Joe Burrow won it. I mean,
Yes,
Joe Burrow's was the most unanimous one, I think, in history. This should be right behind. The number one, like I said, Ashton Genty is the best, should be the Heisman Trophy winner. He's the number one player on the field. But number one in my heart is Cam Skattebo. Cam Skattebo was my player of the week in the very first week one of the regular season, and he's in it for conference championship player of the week. That is my guy. That is my GOAT, Cam Skattebo, player of the week.
this guy loved Cam Skattebo before it was cool. Just everybody remember that. This guy was on
Yep.
you talking about Cam Skattebo before it was cool. But look,
Yeah.
on our polls, the fans were split. Genty got one, Skattebo got one. That put us down to a close situation. But living up to its namesake, the Ashton Genty Player of the Week is none other than Ashton Genty himself. The king of the Player of the Week hauls it in and all but locks up a Michael Penix Player of the Year award.
You know, should we just start the show with that? Our college football award show? We might as well just start it with that
Yeah,
award because it's going to be what should the Heisman Trophy should be. Or we could just make the entire show a celebration of Ashton Genty's greatness. I don't know. We'll figure that out whenever we come to it. But um, shoot, how many is that for him? Four, five? It's got to
Yeah,
be up there. Oh my
five,
gosh. I mean,
five this season, like 4 or 5 this season.
I don't know how long we'll do this show for, but I don't think we will ever have someone dominate like Ashton Genty on this ever again.
No, it's the way I mean, the crazy thing is it's the way we go for diversity. It's the way we try to find players nobody's talking about while still talking about the big name players. And Ashton Genty finds a way on both of our lists week in and week out. It is truly phenomenal. It's unbelievable. And again, there's no reason this guy shouldn't be bringing home a Heisman Trophy.
Agreed. But yeah, speaking of that, they announced the Heisman finalists the other day. Yeah, him, Travis Hunter, Cam Ward, and Dylan Gabriel. I think four very respected finalists. I picked Cam Ward in the preseason, so hope for a miracle for that if it's not Ashton Genty. But look, we all know it's coming down to Ashton Genty and Travis Hunter. We'll find out Saturday night. But yeah, it should be Ashton Genty. There should not even be a question that it should be Ashton Genty.
Every second place vote should go to Travis Hunter. I'll go that far. Every second place vote should go to Travis Hunter. He is that good. He's just not the best player in the country.
And
Uh,
also, snaps should not count in determining your Heisman. That should
yeah,
not count for it. If it counts for snaps, how about we check Ashton Genty's snaps to run for over 200 yards? How little is he? How many little attempts does he have to get 200 yards in a game? I mean, let's do the math there. If we're going to count for Travis Hunter, let's compare with everyone.
let's compare yards and touchdowns per snap between all the players. I bet Ashton
Exactly.
Genty dominates that average.
Yeah.
I just hate to be that guy. But let's get a look at this 12-team college football playoff. It's finally here. It's finally set. We can stop drooling and dreaming, and now we can start looking at some incredible matchups. And let's talk about the top four really, really quick. At number one, Oregon, no brainer. Not even going to stop to talk about this one. We knew it was going to be there. They've only undefeated team in the country. They were going to be there. At number two, they went with Georgia. This makes sense, especially when you kind of look at the field. Georgia gets themselves the 2 seed. It makes sense. At 3 and 4, Boise State and Arizona State. Look, huge to see Boise State at the 3, Arizona State at the 4. Thanks to some work from Clemson to get him in there. Um, Thoughts on those top four? Obviously, not a lot to argue because they're conference champions, but
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm just happy. Again, yeah, Arizona State and Boise State, you're welcome. You should be thanking Dabo Sweeney and Clemson right now because one of y'all would have been left hanging out to dry for probably playing Texas in the first round if it wasn't for Clemson. So, yeah, I'm happy for them. Look, you're looking at potentially if the seedings hold up, you got Ashton Genty going against that Georgia defense. What fun that would be. You got Coach Dillingham taking on his former coach that he worked for at Oregon before becoming the Arizona State coach. I mean, yeah, it's a great top four. If you got this top four in the preseason, no, you didn't. That's all I got to say about that.
yeah, absolutely not. Um, Look, I'm going to start off by saying just real quick. When I was looking at this, look, we knew that really the big question was going to be at 11. Is it SMU? Is it Alabama? And I'm not going to pretend to be a super genius because I did still sweat it out, hoping for SMU to make it. But once I saw it, because I think ESPN kind of messed up on the suspense aspect. Um, because they put where they had the teams on the bracket, but then off to the side they had them where they would sit based on where they're ranked in the actual poll, not where they sit on the bracket, not where they're seated. And that kind of gave away to at least to me the result of what it was going to be, or what I was hoping was going to happen. Because once I saw that Arizona State only moved a couple spots and Clemson didn't move at all, I was like, well, if Clemson's not moving at all, because Arizona State's still ahead of Clemson, then that means that SMU probably didn't move very much, and Texas or and Alabama probably didn't move at all.
Yeah.
So I was like, probably going to be SMU, but I think from a suspense aspect, it was a lot easier to reason that out, kind of with the way they left it on the side. Now, I think it was cool to see where they sat as that came out, but like, just I do think that it kind of killed the momentum a little bit, or the the suspense of it, at least for me. Even though I still wondered would they make a mistake. But let's look at the first round matchup, or at least the top one here. 5 versus 12. That's Texas versus Clemson. This is going to be an interesting game. Not going to necessarily do game picks right now. We'll do that kind of as we get closer to time. With the way the bowl games and stuff are spaced out, not going to rush into picking them all right now. But just looking at Clemson versus Texas, first thoughts based off what we last saw of these teams.
I will say this is probably the biggest test for both these teams. Clemson, probably their biggest test we've seen since Georgia. Texas, probably the best opponent they played besides Georgia. That's probably for both these teams. It's the best teams they have played, not named Georgia, when they go head to head here. Listen, this Clemson defense, I think, gives them a sneaky chance, but it comes down to how much pressure they get on Quinn Ewers. You talked about it. I talked about it. His ability to be in the pocket and throw the ball down the field with success. If they can do that against Clemson early on, I think they can handle this. And then for the Clemson offense, look, they're in the playoff, but let's not act like this offense is the most perfect thing in the world. Cade Klubnik still has issues. They've tried running the ball. It really hasn't worked out as well against some of the elite teams. Their defense is going to give them a chance, I think, in this game, but it comes down to what their offense can do and what they can do throwing the football against a pretty solid Texas defense.
Yeah, with Texas, I think this has got to be the strategy. I think Arch Manning has to get a lot of reps here in the next couple of weeks. I think Quinn Ewers needs to start, but I'm gonna be frank. If he cannot control the pocket and stay calm in the pocket, I've got to be honest here. Maybe it's best to get Arch in there. He's more mobile. He's still no Lamar Jackson, but he's more mobile. He's clearly shown that he can make some throws in the big time games, in the big time moments. I think it'd be at least worth getting him maybe a drive or two just to see what he could do. But I think, SEC championship, I thought it was okay to let Ewers play the whole game because it's the SEC championship. You can still go to the college football playoff if you win. Uh, let's keep the momentum behind Ewers. But now with your season on the line, if Ewers can't get the job done, I think you got to be starting to look at the next man up kind of mentality. Um,
Thanks. And also, you got to remember this is a home game, too. So that should help Texas out some here.
yeah.
So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. But for both sides, it comes down to quarterback play.
Yeah, and now these next 3 games, I'm actually super excited to talk about. Look, the game in Austin, it, Texas Clemson. I feel like that's a game you'd see in the regular season, at some point. But here, these 3 games that are coming up, these are games that you don't see very often. They're going to be on campus, and they're going to be in some pretty rowdy environments. These are going to be super fun to watch. Starting with Ohio State versus Tennessee in the shoe in Columbus. Man, Ohio State looked rough the last time we saw them. Rivalry week. But look, Tennessee has not been the most consistent team against the best defenses in the country. This high-powered offense has faded. And Ohio State, boy oh boy, do they have a defense.
Oh man. Yeah, look, we knew coming into this playoff before all the teams or anything, the 8-9 matchup was going to be the most intriguing one. We all knew it. And it has lived up to it with this matchup we're getting here, Tennessee and Ohio State. Of course, look, there's questions about Ryan Day's future right now at Ohio State. Is he going to leave and go to the pros? Is he going to get fired? I mean, we already had one pro coach today, Bill Belichick, come from the pros to college. So you never know. We might get the reverse there. I'm not sure. But I mean, just talking about this game in general, I'm very curious because I know Tennessee's going on the road to Columbus. I don't know if they've ever played at Ohio State before. I can't tell you if they have, but look, Ohio State struggled against the ground and pound kind of offense of Michigan. That is Tennessee's offense this year. Dylan Sampson, a really talented running back. We know what he can do. And also, another big thing with Ohio State that's questioned, their offensive line is so injured for them. They have so many injuries there. And we've seen this Tennessee defense, their pass rushing, James Pierce, the defensive line they have there is really, really tough. There are some mismatches for Ohio State in this game. For Tennessee, look, it comes down to Ohio State what their offensive game plan is with Chip Kelly. We saw when they played Michigan, they tried to match the physicality of Michigan, and boy, did it blow up in their face. They have a good defense, but their offense needs to be more wide open. Get it to wide receivers, get more people involved. Try not to make this a ground and pound kind of game. If you do, Tennessee will win this game just like Michigan. And we have a whole nother conversation about Ryan Day. But I'm intrigued by this one. I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Then we've got in Beaver. Boy, this is going to be an exciting one. Penn State, SMU. Look, for me, Penn State, the offenses are going to be fun to watch in this game. Which defense is going to be able to make the most stops, I think, is what I'm looking to in this one.
And my question here is, look, let's just face the fact. They've announced this as a noon kickoff in Happy Valley. It's a noon kickoff. We have seen noon kickoffs in Happy Valley be the death of it for Penn State seasons. We have seen it a million times where that kind of thing happens. We'll see if they live up to it. This is an SMU team, like you talked about, an explosive offense that SMU have. They have a phenomenal offense. Penn State's offense is good. Talent wise, Penn State should win this game, I think. But I mean, for everyone, there's that lingering feeling. Can James Franklin win the big games? Can he win against the SMU team? And then can he beat a solid Boise State team if they win this game at home? I'm curious to see how it plays out. You mentioned these are going to be two great offenses. This is the one out of all of them that I'm looking most forward to potentially being a shootout. The rest of them I think could be low score potentially. This one's got to be a shootout.
Absolutely. And then finally, we've got the Notre Dame Fighting Irish hosting a game under touchdown Jesus in Notre Dame Stadium against the Indiana Hoosiers. Little in-state rivalry action. Man, I'm excited for this game. I am so happy Notre Dame. They didn't screw it up. They got to the college football playoff. We get to play a game at home. Boy, oh boy, I looked at tickets for this game.
Oh my gosh, they're so expensive.
I wish I could afford them.
$800, I think, was the cheapest one I could find, and that was a couple of days ago. Who knows what it is now?
Yeah, I looked day of the like the day that they actually announced the date of the game when tickets went up, and they were $600 instantly. I was like, I wish.
Yeah. But I mean, I love it. I didn't know what they were going to do matchup wise with Indiana with it, and they could not have made it any better. You're talking about an in-state rivalry matchup for a college football playoff game. I mean, that I don't get. It doesn't get any better than that. And these are two in-state teams that would probably not play each other in the regular season, and you're getting to see a head-to-head. Oh my gosh, that's going to be electric in there. And Austin, not to just cut you off here, we have breaking news here. This is shocking. Are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
We have talked about it with Clemson. Clemson is set to host Purdue transfer edge Will Helt on a visit in the upcoming days. That is not
Wow.
wrong, ladies and gentlemen. Clemson is hosting a transfer on a visit. Red alert. This is not a drill. Clemson might actually be going after transfers, Austin.
Wow. It would be the first time Dabo Sweeney. Look, I think he learned his lesson, though. I'll say it. He learned his lesson. He got his butt kicked. He slipped into the college football playoff, but he knows that if they want to keep competing, if they want to keep being the brand that they are, he's going to have to be a little bit more aggressive in the transfer portal.
He definitely is. And you know, he talked about not making game by game predictions. I do have my full 12 team prediction for how I think the playoff works out for the whole thing if you want to go over those.
Um, oof. I don't have a full on predictions. I'd love to hear your predictions, though.
Right. So the way I see it, number one, Texas, I think will beat Clemson. I think that's a given, I think, in my mind. Number two, I like Tennessee to beat Ohio State in the horseshoe. I think it's just too big of a mismatch for Ohio State. I will say though, if Ohio State wins this game and they play Oregon, I could see the Buckeyes winning that game. I
Yeah,
don't I don't I don't know what happened with Tennessee there, but I can see it. I think Penn State sneaks by SMU. At least that's how I have it. And then I have Notre Dame make it to the second round. And so I'll save the rest of the picks. My national championship, Oregon versus Notre Dame.
I like it. I was
Yeah,
actually going to ask you whose path do you love the most because
Notre Dame.
I love Notre Dame's path to the national
I
championship.
think they are going to play. Look, I think they can, if they can beat Indiana, they are playing a Georgia team. We don't know what they're going to be offensively. They can match up defensively with Georgia so well. And I think it comes down to if you don't have a healthy quarterback out there, the healthier one's in Notre Dame. And then if you're Notre Dame, you're either playing Boise State or Penn State in that semifinal, at least is what I'm expecting. I don't know. I could be wrong, and it could be SMU, but I think either way, I like Notre Dame's path a lot, and I really like Penn State. I really think Notre Dame and Penn State. If you were going to ask me which paths I like the most, those are the two I like the most.
Yeah, I really love Notre Dame's their path. I like Indiana. I like Kurt Signetti, but their one game against a big time ranked opponent didn't go so well. I think they'll put up a fight. I think Notre Dame can beat them. I like Georgia if Carson Beck's the healthiest man on the earth. If he's not, I like him against Gunnar Stockton. I don't care. Quarterback play has not been Georgia's strong suit, and they're gonna have to be able to throw the football to win this game. I think Notre Dame is a team that forces a lot of turnovers, and that's something that Georgia's offense has just died by this year is the turnover. And then look, we play Boise State or Penn State. I think the defense does enough to make things happen. And then yeah, I think there you are. You're in the national championship. Um, I know I'm a Notre Dame fan, but I just love this path. I really don't know how we got such a good shake of it, honestly.
Yeah. And same for Penn State. I mean, look, Oregon, you don't want to say Oregon got screwed by winning the Big Ten championship, but I mean, you're looking at potentially playing Ohio State in the second round if they win that game. And we saw how close that first matchup was for them. I will say, if it's Texas and Arizona State, that will be a fun one, I think. I think that could be a really fun second round matchup. I know all the other ones would be fun too, but if it's Texas and Arizona State, I would really look forward to that one.
Yeah, but look, it's here. The 12-team playoff is staring us in the face. Look, we've got one game to pick this week for the troops. Army versus Navy. Who do you got?
Yeah, we got the one regular season game, and don't forget two bowl games this weekend already. We got going with it too, the Veterans Bowl and the Celebration Bowl, nonetheless. So, yeah, it's going to be exciting. Army Navy, it always delivers. It always does. You are a hater of America if you do not watch this game. You are a hater of the United States of America. It will be glorious. In fact, take the over, ladies and gentlemen. I am taking an over in Army Navy. You heard it here first. I'm going to roll with Army to win the game, though.
I'm gonna go with Navy to win this one. I like Army as a team. I like Navy. I think Navy comes out and gets one over on Army though. Um, and takes home a big win. And I'm with you. I actually like the over in this game. I think the unders hit like a million of the last 1 million years. But I think this is the year two high powered triple option offenses come out and score more than 39 points. Um, then in the Veterans Bowl, South Alabama, Western Michigan. Who do you got?
Man, I really liked South Alabama. I think South Alabama is one to keep an eye on for next year. Freshman quarterback Gio Lopez is one to keep in mind for the next couple of years. I think he's a true freshman that already said that he's staying another year at South Alabama. I think they could be building something there. I'll pick South Alabama in this game.
Um, I don't really know anything about this game at all. I don't know anything about these teams. I won't lie. I never lie. So I'm gonna take Western Michigan purely because I just am digging the pure vibes I'm feeling from Western Michigan right now. Just something in the air screaming Western Michigan. And finally, the Celebration Bowl, Jackson State, South Carolina State. Who do you got?
Man, this is an interesting one for this one. It's the HBCU national championship. It might as well be for it. Look, Jacksonville State, the first after Dion left, they kind of had a little bit of a slump last year, and they have bounced back tremendously this year. I'm gonna roll with Jackson State to win this game.
Yeah, I'm going to go with South Carolina State in this game, actually, to spite Coach Prime and everything he stands for, and his roots where he came from Jackson State. I know they don't really have anything to do with him now, but just to fight him anyway, I want South Carolina State to win this game because I want Coach Prime to be miserable and unhappy and sad and alone.
Absolutely. And I mean, I think that's fair. I think that's fair if that's your belief with it with Dion. But hey, speaking of NFL, big time NFL players or coaches making the college jump, let's talk quickly about Bill Belichick. He had his press conference today with North Carolina.
Yep.
I want to know, what are your thoughts on it, Austin?
I love this hire for North Carolina. Look, I kind of like Bill Belichick going back to the college game. A lot of people are saying, "Oh, he's so close to the record, chasing the record of Don Shula in the NFL." And sure, I think that that's fair to do. But I think at this point, every season Bill Belichick coaches in the NFL is a season that discounts his legacy and how great he truly is as a coach. More times that people are going to say, "Oh, you don't have Tom Brady. You're not as good of a coach." And look, I don't think that that's all entirely true. He's older. He's getting near the end of his coaching career. That's definitely got to have something to do with kind of the decline as well. So I think going to college football, a new landscape, and being this all-time great NFL head coach, it's going to help recruiting. I love that he's doing something that means something to him as well. He has a personal connection to the University of North Carolina. I think it adds an awesome energy, could make North Carolina a contender right away in the ACC. Who would not want to go play for Bill Belichick? I think that just screams, uh, you know, instant recruits from the transfer portal, from in-state, anywhere. This is a huge upgrade for North Carolina. I don't dislike Mac Brown, but he just did not seem like he knew what he was doing out on the field the last couple of years. I think this is a hiring where if you're going to have an old guy with a lot of football experience, at least get a guy who's going to have a little bit more value and maybe a little bit more impact as far as building this team's concerned.
Think so along those lines too. NIL money's going up. Um, Michael Lombardi's coming with him to be the GM of the football program there. So I'm interested to see what he does. I will say this to me could either build into something where he has some good years to end his, career off of, or something that crashes and burns in 1 year. I don't think there's a middle ground for it. It could be a rough first year and then he builds off it for the future, but I don't know. I'm rooting for success there. I don't hold nothing against Bill Belichick. I hold something against the New England Patriots. But I hold nothing against Belichick. I hope he does well at North Carolina. And hey, I mean, just think of his matchup. We talked about the hype Dion was getting there. Imagine the hype around North Carolina football with this kind of hire. And hey, Dolan, now they do play UCF, and they play a coach who made his return to UCF, Scott Frost, as the head coach too.
Yeah, really. I think it's an incredible hire. But look,
I think so.
we've kept you long enough. It's the Bold Take Podcast. There's so much more coming from Bowl Week, from the college football playoff. This is only just the beginning, but it's finally here. We're so close. Just a few more sleeps, and we're there. But until then, that's been Austin Waiter. I'm Austin Hill, and we want to thank you for listening.